We're adding templates 16, 17, and 18 to our collection today. Hi everybody, welcome to sunnydaystamping.com. I'm Julie Baca. This template class is my favorite class of the month. I feel like templates are so incredibly useful. I use them all the time for giving me ideas on how to use the stamps and dies and punches that I have to make cards. Or it's great when I have a set that I want to use but don't quite know what to do. I can flip through my templates to give me ideas. So I hope you've been following along and making all of the templates. If you've missed any of them, I've got a whole playlist of the templates. So go back. In the videos, I share all of the measurements so you can create these. So let's get started. Just a reminder, when we're making our templates to save paper, we are only going to use the front of the card. But when you go to make your actual card, you're going to use the measurement 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4. When you're making your template, you are just going to do a 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece of cardstock. For our first template, we need 2 circles that are 1 3/4 inches. With a layer on top of 2 3/4 by 4. And then a sentiment layer that fits perfectly on this layer that is 2 3/4 by 3/4 inches. Now don't forget to flip to the back of your tutorial to cut out these labels that go on the templates so that when you are when you're flipping through your box of templates, the measurements are right there on the back. And here is the example card, taking the pieces from the template elements to create a card. All of the example cards for this February class are using the Ocean Friends Designer Series paper and the stamp and die sets. So this lobster here is actually cut out of this paper. There's also a die that cuts out the crab, making it so easy to create. All right, our next template, take a 4 1/4 by 5.5 card base representation. Then you need a square that's 3 inches by 3 inches, and then 3 circles. One larger one that's 1 3/4, and then 2 small ones that are 3/4 inch circles. And you just kind of arrange them around the square like that. Don't forget to grab your label to put on the back of here. And here is the example card. You actually rotate this. You can see the square and the circles. And instead of using circles, used the little starfish out of that die set. Now, all the details and measurements for all the example cards are in this tutorial that you can get for free with a $50 purchase in February. Each template, we're going to use a vertical orientation and a horizontal orientation, giving you lots of ideas. So for the last template, you're going to take 3 layers that are 4 1/4 by 2 inches. And what we're going to do is actually rip these layers. So this is a tip for ripping cardstock. There actually is a trick to it. So whichever thumb that you have holding down, that is where the frayed edge is going to be. And we're going to rip this at kind of an angle, and the more like texture you have on there, the better. Now you're going to glue this first layer about 1 inch from the bottom and then tear your next layer. And you don't want to tear it the same way. So maybe start down lower and work up to the next corner. Then you're going to glue that one down and do your next one. Lastly, we've got a banner here that you can use for your sentiment. And then here is the example card I used. You can see I've got 2 pieces of cardstock, but then I used a piece of Designer Series paper, put a focal image here, and stamped my greeting on the banner. I want to give you some tips for how to stamp this crab, and I'll also show you how to stamp that lobster. You don't need 2 different colors of ink to use this stamp set. You've got the solid shape and then the outline. So all you have to do is ink up the solid shape in the full strength, stamp it off on your paper, and then stamp it on what you're going to be using for your card. And then stamp the outline in full strength and outline it like this. That way you only need one color of ink. Now let me show you how to do the lobster. The same way, you're going to stamp it off. Oh, I didn't ink that up very well. So actually, because this stamp is so big, take your stamp pad to the stamp. There, now I've got really good coverage. Stamp it off on your scrap paper. Oh boy, let me try that again. Now take the outline. Make sure it's nice and inked up. There, isn't that so great? You could do so many different color combos. So to make this card, go ahead and cut the crab out using the die. The other piece you'll need is this big coral die that cuts this out, and I love those little dots on there. Now in this stamp set, we've got a cluster of 3 bubbles and 2 bubbles. I love these little things. So just like in our template here, we're gonna take some pieces of cardstock to decorate the front of our card. So for this first layer, I liked to use the bubbles to kind of stamp all around. Even though we're gonna be ripping it, I wanna have some bubbles on it. Just make sure to rotate that around. So now, just like we used our template, we're gonna rip the layers of these strips of paper and then glue them on top. So when you go to glue down your layers, just make sure that the card base isn't showing through. So that's why I glue this one down first and then layer these on top. And depending on how short you cut the depth of this one, you may have to just move your pieces around just to make sure that card base doesn't show. And now what I did with this is I took a piece of it for the front of the card, use Stampin' Dimensionals to pop that up, and then use this for the inside of the card like that. Now lastly, let me just show you how to do that little banner. You just pick a greeting out of that stamp set, and I put it just down along the edge of the banner, and then use those adorable bubbles, making sure to stamp off the paper so you don't get like full bubbles. Just like that. And then add this to the front of your card. And then don't forget to decorate your envelope, of course. But let me show you one other way to do this card. So instead of having it at this orientation, you can rotate it. Instead of tearing these different layers, this die set comes with this beautiful wave. So I used that to cut the different layers of cardstock and designer series paper, and then made the banner just a little bigger. So I hope you add these templates to your stash today, and I will see you next month for our next class. I put out a new video every Thursday, so I will see you here next week. Thank you so much for watching. Have a sunny day.